an open sea is an eternal flame of freedom that signifies a never-ending liberty. It's what we have Red State's culture, beautifully designed by artists Edith and Nicholas, America's record built in 1932. They have said that when this was lighted, it remained on the beginning of the people all the way from the Peninsula, Manila, and Cavite. We are now heading to the bottom of the park.
Parce que j'allais mourir dans le... Ça va être un peu de ça. Bus number 7.
Unless you're a doctor, you will have a different imagination. We're now here at the lowest and narrowest part, bottom side area, 50 feet from sea level. This is the neck of the island facing Manila Bay and Mount Mariveles 3 miles across. Behind that mountain is Olongapo and Zambales. Mount Mariveles is part of the mainland, Bataan Peninsula. We're now at the north or the Army Dock. For today's travel, we are not yet leaving Manila Bay. There are 5 islands at the mouth of the bay, 5, Corregidor, the largest. The tail is curving east towards Manila, 48 kilometers away. Manila to the north is Bulacan, Pampanga, and Bataan. Manila to the south, Batangas and Cavite. After Corregidor and the smaller islands, you will end up in the West Philippine Sea. We are not yet leaving Manila Bay. If you end up in the West Philippine Sea after 40 kilometers to right, and that will be Subic Bay already. And And we're not going to submit, otherwise the captain got lost. And this captain never gets lost. He is the fifth best captain in the Philippines. The first four are already dead. Now, Bataan reminds us of the death march. I'd like to be clear on this. Ladies and gentlemen, while the death march was ongoing in Bataan, Corregidor was still fighting. Bataan surrendered April 9, 1942. The siege and passion of Corregidor lasted 27 days after the fall of Bataan. Corregidor surrendered May 6, 1942. The death march was already 10 days over. Those who fought, defended, and surrendered here, they were not part of the Bataan death march. Now realize that in Bataan then, the Filipinos, the Americans, and the Japanese had a common enemy. At that time, Bataan was the best place to get malaria. They always said that in Bataan, the mosquitoes had air superiority. One time, the Japanese attack towards Bataan had to stop. 70,000 Japanese soldiers were down with malaria. General Homer requested for more troops and given to him 150,000 Japanese heading for Australia were sent back to Bataan. That proved to be crucial during the Battle of the Coral Sea. Australia's population then was only 7 million. And I salute the Australians, they sent 1 million to combat. Okay, lunch for this group is at 12 noon. That means we get to see the tail side first. Tail section first. When you hear this bell ring, that means time to board. We have to move on and see other places. Same seat assignment. Teng, teng, teng means Japanese are coming. We are evacuating the area. Now, do we have overnighters here? Okay, now the hotel is up here to the right side, the Corregidor Inn, and that is now the Philippines' only 31-star hotel. They have 31 rooms, each room has 1 star. Oh, by the way, to the foreigners, Filipino jokes are for Filipinos only. When you say it in English, it's not funny and does not make sense. And also foreigners know these Filipinos, they like taking pictures, different background, same pose. Okay, our first stop will be the Japanese Memorial, and I remember one time I had an all-Korean group. We went to the Japanese Memorial, they said, move on, we're not getting off. Now, when Corregidor was about to surrender, America, of course, cannot afford the Supreme Commander General MacArthur to be captured by the enemy. After 3 repeated orders from President Franklin Roosevelt, MacArthur was either to leave Corregidor or leave the army, now about to be fired for his constant disobedience. Finally, Douglas MacArthur left Corregidor March 11, 1942 from the north side called Lord Chudak. On board patrol torpedo boat 41 from here to Mindanao, from Mindanao to Darwin, Australia. In Australia, MacArthur said the words, I came through and I shall return. He said it in Australia, not here. I have a question. Lord Chudak is facing Manila Bay, but the other side of the neck is facing the open sea already. Strategically, it is wiser to leave from the south side. Why would MacArthur be so stubborn leaving from the north? Nothing to do with strategy, simply now. The south side facing the open sea is the Navy dock. MacArthur is an Army general. The Navy and the Army would never agree on anything. Part of the blunders of the military, then they do not even share information. March 11, the patrol boats were at the south, MacArthur went to the north. Radio the PT boats to circle the island's tail, pick him up here, circle the head, and out to Mindanao. Professional rivalry. MacArthur came back after 3 years in Leyte, upset with the Navy. MacArthur wanted to walk on dry land. The Navy made him walk on water. And that's when MacArthur found out he cannot walk on water. Okay, 3 more interesting facts about the general aside from his ego. MacArthur really had to retake the Philippines because he had investments here in sugar, tobacco, and stocks at Coca-Cola. Also, retaking of the Philippines 1945, Douglas MacArthur had specific orders not to bomb the San Miguel Brewery. And if you want to know about the Filipino mistress of MacArthur, you Google Isabel Cooper. Isabel Cooper was a young Philippine actress in the 1930s, also known as Dimples. Need to expose the affair of MacArthur with Isabel Cooper. MacArthur gave her money, sent to the US. She had a hair salon in Los Angeles. Isabel Cooper has a son with Douglas, not James Cooper. Okay, just a minor stop, 5 minutes, and we have toilets over there. 5 minutes, same seat assignment, and then field sections. 200 and most are yet to be reopened. We do not know where they are. Please do that. They got lost already. Now, the Americans came back retaking 1945. Di nabawi na to. They used flamethrowers blasting the gates in. They throw dynamites or grenades, collapsing the entrances, burying the Japanese alive inside. An estimated 500 Japanese were buried alive inside their own caves. Some Japanese foxholes are extensive with 6 or 8 openings. You can easily get lost in them. Some just shallow with 1 or 2 openings. When they enter the Japanese Japanese foxhole on top side with two openings. I entered straight and had to exit rappelling upwards with the rope. Sometimes on a stormy day, landslides occur and trees get uprooted. They partially reopen new Japanese caves by accident. Again, in the woodlands, 200 Japanese foxholes. And this one I'm going to show you is just shallow. It only has this one opening to your right side, a Japanese foxhole. 9 years ago, we had the storm and the landslide occurred. It reopened partially another one. Right side down below here, I have not entered this one yet because I have a big stomach, I cannot fit inside. But the lady here in front wearing glasses can fit inside. Raise your hands if you want her to go in there. You're going in there? Okay, I have butter. Now look in front, one of those 80 Japanese caves for the suicide boat, Shinyotai, Ochenta. Inside the underground hospital of Malinta Tunnel, 124 nurses were stationed. 20 were Filipino nurses. I met some of them years after the war. They came back on a tour already old. The nurses said that Japanese ear raids were almost every day. They would be lucky to have 2 hours of generator power. Most of the time, the nurses were operating using flashlights, lanterns, and candles only. One time, they ran out of medicine and operated on a soldier with a burst appendix. For anesthesia, 14 Marines pinned down the patient. The underground hospital was very damp and humid. The wounds don't dry up, they hardly heal at all. They did not know whether it was daytime or nighttime outside the tunnel. Constantly in the dark, they felt like standing on jelly from the constant shaking. Corregidor surrendered. The nurses were first made to treat injured Japanese soldiers. Then the nurses were transferred to the University of Santo Tomas internment camp in Manila, where they continued to treat the sick and the injured. There were no male nurses at the time. He was referred to as a foreman, not a nurse. Here's a picture inside the underground hospital, and they have a good book about the nurses. We, Land of Angels. Yan, nasa puntot na po tayo. We are now at the field side. Seems we had a heavy breakfast because he's having a hard time going uphill. Wetang hapon ulit. Another Japanese foxhole, right side. And again, to the right side now is the north entrance to Malinta Tunnel, underground hospital section. If you enter the north opening, it will lead you to the main tunnel. Before you can reach the main tunnel inside, 12 branches left and right, connected again to accommodate 1,000 hospital beds. Two of the world's mightiest battleships were Japanese, Musashi and Yamato. We are now heading for the Japanese memorial paying tribute to the Musashi. The Musashi was sunk in the Sibuyan Sea, October 24, 1944, during the Battle for Leyte Gulf. Classic, the Battle for Leyte Gulf is the greatest naval conflict in history. 300 warships were engaged in a 4-day sea battle at the height of a storm. Also, the Battle for Leyte Gulf is the birthplace of the kamikaze airplane. Now, consider the Japanese memorial remains to be a sacred place. It is the original Japanese military cemetery on the island. No one is buried there anymore. In 1986, all 4,500 buried, brought up, cremated here, ashes sent back to Japan. It is now a 2-hectare praying place for Japanese guests. Hinukay mo ito 1986, wala pang DNA testing, paano na lamang hapon. Lahat ng buto sa kang. Now, why were the bombs assumed only in 1986 and not earlier? I'll explain that later. Hiroshima was the arsenal capital of Japan, where they were making bombs, planes, tanks, and guns. That's why the atomic bomb was dropped first in Hiroshima. So the guns here are Japanese anti-aircraft guns manufactured in Hiroshima, but not in their original locations. Scattered all over the island, we just got 4 and placed it there for display. If you go hiking or trekking in the woodlands, you can still see Japanese guns in their original mounting. There are also 2 shrines here, Buddha and Shinto. Buddhism is the religion of the common Japanese, Shintoism the religion of the royal family. In Shintoism, the emperor is a living god on earth. After the war, General Homa, firing squad, General Yamashita, hanged, the emperor got free. Big issue for the surrender terms of Japan, you cannot put their living god on trial for war crimes. After the war, America managed Japan. MacArthur changed the divinity of the emperor. I'm sorry, Your Highness, you are not God anymore. The Buddha is amusing. As a sign of friendship and reconciliation between Japan and the Philippines, the Japanese Buddha was merged with the Virgin Mary and Child Jesus, resulting in the Japanese Buddha with children. Now they call it Majin Buu. na they call it goddess of mercy with brotherly affection. Shibo, Kanon, Sama. Tsaka si Buddha, babae. Pag lalaki, Budo. Alanganin, puting. I'm also glad to see we have Filipinos of dual citizenship. Ayan, second row. Filipino citizen and senior citizen. Why were the boats exhumed only in 1986 and not earlier? Okay? Oh, by the way, soon enough you'll see 1 mile across to the right side, Caballo Island. Caballo. Okay, now World War II ended. America gave the Philippines independence as promised, July 4, 1946. But America obtained the basis of the works so big from Johnny and the air in Zambales. Nothing was worth salvaging here. So 1947, Corregidor was reverted back to the Philippine government. Please go back. The cemetery got us, and for decades, the Japanese government was looking for it. They discovered only in 1985 because of this photograph. The young process Japanese are not Christians. Americans buried them afterwards, so there will be no spread of disease. Let's read. An unknown GI stands in front of the Japanese military cemetery established by the American Quartermaster Graves Company. The Japanese boss commonly cremated the dead. This was the only Japanese military cemetery in the entire Pacific during World War II. Over the following 40 years, jungle grew covered area. The place got lost for decades. 1985, without veteran Swords Canal rediscovered the site. This photograph, which he found in a garage safe in Portland, Oregon, guide them in, showing Caballo Island and using it as reference. That's the only time they were able to discover the cemetery again after the picture turned up in a garage sale in Portland, Oregon in 1985. 1986, all 4,500 buried, brought up, cremated, back to Japan. The Japanese stayed up in certain prey of burn like incense. The gods here are from Hiroshima, and the Buddha is to your right side. Before you alight, I am sure that you cannot imagine a Japanese memorial at Pearl Harbor. When this memorial opened to the public first time 20-something years ago, Filipinos and Americans objected to it. Why allow a Japanese memorial? Politics. Now in front right side down below, check out that white mark. Out a flash of light and a big bang! And the lady will jump to another boyfriend, you will quarrel and separate. Bang! No boyfriend, you jump to me. In our language, malinta means plenty of leeches. Hardened criminals from Manila Pilipin prison camp were sent by the Americans to Corregidor to dig the tunnel, and while working at it, the inmates were mainly complaining of a lot of leeches attached to the trees. Completed, the project was named Malinta Tunnel or Plenty of Leeches Tunnel. During the war, all of the leeches died and some reincarnated. They are now congressmen, senators, and governors. Now you will hear the simulated voice of President Quezon cursing in Spanish. MacArthur was sent to Australia. President Quezon thought that America abandoned the Philippines. Things got desperate. America implemented War Plan Rainbow 5. Europe first, before the Pacific. With tuberculosis, President Quezon was quoted as saying, "Punyeta, typically Americans. How can you grieve and anguish at the fate of a distant cousin in Europe while a daughter is being raped right here in the back room?" For political reasons, they removed the words, typically Americans. One of the 24 branches inside was the office of General George Moore, Harbor Defense Commander from Texas. He was an Aggie, a Texas A&M College graduate. At the time, it was also a rule for General Moore. If you're not from Texas, you are not allowed to enter his office unless you outrank him. His office inside became the site of the Texas Aggie Muster in 1942. During the bombings, there were a lot of men outside who wanted to go inside the tunnel. They were not allowed to. But frankly, there were more men inside who wanted to go out already. They were not permitted to. 8,000 men inside the tunnel for 5 months most of the time, without lights, electricity, poor ventilation, and poor living conditions. 10 months after the war ended, the Americans got Japanese prisoners of war from Manila to Corregidor to treat their friends who blew themselves inside. After 10 months, 2,000 dead, the stench was unbearable. Now during the show, you can take pictures but no videotaping. And professionally, as a tour guide, I'm to encourage all of you to watch the show. This makes money for the Corregidor Foundation in charge of maintaining the shrine. To be frank, at the same time, this has been the same show for the past 26 years now. It is old technology theater that really needs an upgrade. There are times it is very crowded, you'll have a hard time watching what's going on. Sometimes the audio is poor, you can barely understand what is being said. If you're not watching, remain on board the bus. When the show is over, the gates will open. You can go inside and take pictures after the show if you're not watching. Then again, if it is your first time on the island, you might as well watch the show, otherwise the curiosity will kill you tonight. How can you tell your friends back home the show is not good if you did not watch it in the first place? Nandito ka na eh, sige na. At the end, no refund. Now, if you look at the map, Maling Tunnel is still connecting the head and the tail is a shortcut. And we are now heading for the east entrance. On top is 1932, the year of completion. Pictures of the east entrance after the surrender in 1942. Filipinos already was coming up to again, east entrance after the retreat in 1945. General MacArthur inspecting the inside. MacArthur was a second lieutenant, a fresh graduate from West Point. This is now the east entrance. And the outlay map of the tunnel is in front, to the right side. The yellow dot is where we are. And the one going up to the north entrance is the underground. I already explored that. There are 18 gasoline tanks inside. Again, the map is to your right side. Yung iba nakakahoys, there are certain parts reinforced with wood or timber that was added by the Americans after the war already to prevent further damage. And then Japanese prisoners so far from Manila were sent to Corregidor to take their comrades who put themselves inside. Some with wood collapsed again. There were Japanese buried dead with live grenades in their hands with the pins already pulled out. So there were still explosions after the war cleaning the tunnel, and the Japanese are known to make booby traps, explosive and chemical booby traps. Also, relic bombs are very unstable. What is buried there is still there up to now. The more we clean it, the more it will collapse. The overnighters after the tour are checked in at the hotel, then they go hiking and trekking in the woodlands, then they have a sunset tour. At night, they go back to Maling Tunnel with hard hats and flashlights. They will enter and explore all of the branches left and right. The tour guide will show you how extensive Maling Tunnel is. It will take you more than 60 minutes inside. Important for helmets, there are areas you will duck walk, crawl a bit. They will show you one branch with some Japanese bones laid out still. Nothing intact, they blew themselves up with dynamite, a hand, a foot, a jaw, or a rib cage. Normally when I conduct the underground hospital tour at night inside the tunnel, in the middle of the activity, I drop the lights. That is how it was like then. 8,000 men inside the tunnel for 5 months, most of the time without lights, electricity, and poor ventilation. You would not know whether it is daytime or nighttime outside. And just for 10 seconds without lights, I tell the group, let's move forward. It is so dark you cannot see the hand in front of your face. You'll hit the walls and bump your friends. One time I did up with a group of teachers. I had fun. Somebody pinched my tongue. I turned the lights on. He was a guy. Yesterday afternoon, plenty of tourists at the South Beach swimming. All topless. All men. Okay, we're done with the tail section. We're now going to see the head part, the War Memorial Zone. Being the largest of the 5 islands at the mouth of the bay, corridors from the Spanish word corregir to correct. During the Spanish period, all ships going in and out of Manila Bay were made to pass by Isla del Corregidor, island of the corrector, to have their papers checked, to have their documents in proper order, and to have their cargoes inspected. During the American period, Corregidor was one of the best fortresses of the Americans outside of their country, and the island was renamed Fort Mills. The budget for Fort Mills, $150 million by 1903. Imagine America brought us from Spain 20 million. Then America spent here 150 million. A first-class military paradise. So before the war, Fort Mills Corregidor had 9 civilian communities. May siyam na barangay dito noong araw. They had horseback riding activities, a 9-hole golf course. They had 2 movie houses, 9 electric trains or tranvías. They had a lighthouse, an airstrip, a commissary or a duty-free shop, baseball fields, bowling alleys, an Olympic-sized saltwater swimming pool, tennis courts, several banks. For a small island, the Americans had taxi services here. 2 of the world's longest barracks were You might mimic a mating call. Sa Tagalog, ano yan? Buksan ko, paramdam ng kamag-anak. And don't worry about the monkeys. This morning we slaughtered 12 for your lunch later. Inolang Unggoy. Can we give the head section welcome now to middle side area, 400 feet from sea level. In front, middle side parade ground several times served as a baseball field. Lagi sa Corregidor yung kalbo, bawal magsot ang pagkalit. Pagkamawa siyang Rexona Rodot Theodore. Nakatawag sa kuto nakatira sa kanto. Brutales. Kaya hindi yan nagsisabi sa jacuzzi mo fish. Okay, cameras ready. Cameras ready now. The world's second longest barracks then was middle side barracks. It is a long building divided into two. Half of the building was for the 4,000 Americans of the 60th Coast Artillery Regiment. The other half in front is for another 4,000 of the 91st Philippine Scout Coast Artillery Regiment. It was at war with Russia, and America sold to Japan scrap metal. The Japanese made it into bombs and gave it back to the Americans. Not friends anymore. We could add a new building, restroom, gift shop, museum, or hotel. All ruins original will not be repaired, destroyed, or restored. This is 8 years ago. Remember that the island was heavily bombed twice. Bombed by the Japanese in 1942 during the invasion or attack. Also bombed by the Allied forces in 1945, liberation. Frankly, America did more damage during the retaking. Same thing happened in Manila, the carpet shelling of Intramuros. An American said, we were pissed off when we came back. Walang basag na salamin ang bintana dati kapis. 4,000 Americans here, 4,000 Filipinos there. And for those who want to upgrade and spend overnight free accommodation here, I'm in charge of housekeeping. And for those hunting, stay in the room. Sa corridor walang multo, marami dito aswang. Island to, kami nag-aaswangan. Pero yung pangit dito, 3 araw lang, pwede na. You know the best thing about this tour, there's no traffic. If the enemy would invade Manila Monday morning using EDSA, they will never reach Manila. We are now ahead of them. Thank you for that. Are you still with me? Okay, in the early 1900s, the airplanes and the missiles were not yet invented. So yung bakbakan po, the arms race was for the mightier of battleships. An enemy ship will come from the open sea, enter Manila Bay to target the capital, Manila. The only way to enter Manila Bay by ship is between Bataan Corridor, Cavite Corridor. Through the north or south channels only ang pasok ng barko. Several big guns and cannons were assembled. No hollow blocks. All precast materials and reinforced concrete. The cement and steel bars came all the way from the United States. You know the funny thing then? America bought the cement from Japan. Asano Cement. They were still friends. Early construction years, Japan was at war with Russia. And America sold to Japan scrap metal. The Japanese made it into bombs and gave it back to the Americans. Not friends anymore. We could add a new building, restroom, gift shop, museum, or hotel. All ruins original will not be repaired, destroyed, or restored. This is how war left them behind 78 years ago. Remember that the island was heavily bombed twice. Bombed by the Japanese in 1942 during the invasion or attack. Also bombed by the Allied forces in 1945, liberation. Frankly, America did more damage during the retaking. Same thing happened in Manila, the carpet shelling of Intramuros. An American said, we were pissed off when we came back. Walang basag na salamin ang bintana dati kapis. 4,000 Americans here, 4,000 Filipinos there. And for those who want to upgrade and spend overnight free accommodation here, I'm in charge of housekeeping. And for those hunting, stay in the room. Sa corridor walang multo, marami dito aswang. Island to, kami shell down there could be fired up to 8.3 miles away, maximum range. Each gun would weigh 13 tons. It takes 14 men to handle one gun. Of that 14 per gun, 8 of them putting the shell and the gunpowder. They were the rammers responsible for loading it. At the back of the gun, there is no firing pin or breech block. Before the surrender, General Wainwright ordered his men to destroy and decommission all guns 45 caliber upwards so the Japanese cannot use them anymore. They got the breech block and dumped them in the sea. Now way in front was the gunpowder room. To the left side is the shell room, cartridge room, and generator rooms. The walls are 3 feet and the roof 8 feet of reinforced concrete designed to be bomb-proof. Holes and damages are not bullet holes. The floor is damaged. A bomb drop, boom, damaging the floor. Fragments or shrapnels will ricochet, making holes and other damages. It was suicidal to be anywhere out here in broad daylight then. When you touch the guns, they are still warm because they're now under the sun. We have toilets over there and you can drop your bombs there. When this was built in 1913, the airplanes were not yet invented. They do not know what airplanes can do. After completion, Battery Way was not yet camouflaged. After World War II, they saw what airplanes can do. So by World War II, it was camouflaged already. It takes 1 year for the cement to cure before they can install the guns. Let's have 8 minutes here. Dito. Come here. Come closer to where I am. You know what's nocturnal? That tuko, if I expose it, it's nocturnal, will hide. So stay over here and ready your camera if you want to take a picture of the tuko.
The big gecko right here.
Oh, wow.
Yung tuko.
The gecko.
In Malaysia, they call it toke.
Hindi ba yung salita nito?
Different accent. Okay, let's board. Ito, telephone, radio, typewriter equipment.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. Let's board.
Okay.
Thank, thank.
That's the noise that you can
Ay, ganito lang siya. Battery, meron din. Ito yata yung sinasabi niya.
War veterans coming back. The veterans are now too few, too old, and too dead to travel. 78 years ago, if you were 20 then, you're 98 today. If you're 30, you're dead by now. At the end, I would ask a veteran, you were a prisoner of war for 3 years, you were finally liberated. What was the first thing you asked for? Expect the number one answer to be an ice cold beer. To my surprise, 90% said the same thing. I asked for a toothbrush and dry socks. We're now going to see a much bigger gun called Battery Hearn, also a 12-inch gun, same caliber as the replacement, last to be assembled before war broke out, completed in 1920. So the Japanese found the island, boom, 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 boom. The Americans fired back with machine guns, rat-a-tat-tat, boom, tarat-tarat, boom, tarat-tarat. Filipino thing. Bigyan ng jacket yan. Left side down below are the original roads of the island. Overnighters see that later this afternoon on foot, hiking and trekking to the hospital, commissary, pharmacy, nurses' quarters, and intermediate school. A bigger gun like Battery Hearn will have a spare or reserve barrel, firing 350 rounds to gas. It affects the accuracy. They have to replace the barrel. The old barrel is relighting in a repair shop. What they term as an ordnance repair shop. Now to your right side where they reline the old barrel. To the left side was a tranvia or electric train station. Last to be assembled in 1922, Battery Hearn is the most powerful gun installed here. Maximum range 17 miles or 27 kilometers. In Manila, that is Monumento up to Baclaran. Let's say 17 miles. Being the most powerful, Corregidor finally surrendered. This was for the Japanese, their propaganda picture. The Japanese were on top and all around Battery Hearn shouting, "Banzai! Banzai!" They scattered the pictures all over Manila. America is now defeated in the Philippines. That is the most popular picture of Corregidor. When they shout, "Banzai!" the arms are up in the air. The pants fall down, bonsai, bonsai. You are now about to see a collapse opening to a through and through tunnel. Tagusan yun. Taguan ng banat pulbura. Part of the ammunition room, and that is in front to your left side. You see the intact opening later at the other end. And for those of you who want a souvenir this afternoon for free, later you can bring home the spare barrel in front. It's a very nice keychain. 54 tons. Now with 17 miles range, battery heard to fire in all direction, 360-degree traverse. Now facing the open sea, expecting a naval attack to enter Manila Bay. No target on the other side, which is facing Manila. Good. If they wanted a full turn, 3 hours and 34 men to man the gun. Now behind it, the firing pin or bridge block has been reinstalled, a clear indication of repair. Repaired by the Japanese after the surrender with the help of 200 American prisoners of war. We don't have evidence they were able to fire or use it. The American suit was repaired, they targeted the gun as well. The crater was in 1945 retaking a 1,000-pound American bomb made an almost direct hit. Crater fragments ricochet, look at the damages. Veterans told me before that some bombs were mixed with a chemical, thermite or white phosphorus. Hot white molten shrapnels were melting their way deeper into the steel barrel. Military doctors say that stuff it burns under water and goes right through the bone. You can struck by white phosphorus, they inject you with morphine and activate. In front, and here's the Banzai propaganda picture of Battery Heard. One time I went to George Bush. For lunch, let's make a detour and include a bonus. I'll show you the hospital. Now for the meantime, do you ever wonder how come Filipinos do not speak Spanish? We were under Spain for 400 years. We speak English, it's our second language. We were on American territory, 44 years only. I'll tell you the answer to that if you join my Intramuros tour one time, where I'll mention to you the first batch of American educators, the Thomasites. When the Americans arrived, I guess to our advantage, they were lazy and did not want to learn 122 languages, but industrious enough to teach us English instead. Now we speak English, thank you very much. And they say if you speak many languages, you are multilingual. If you speak 2 languages, you are bilingual. If you speak just 1 language, you are an American. Now with almost 700 buildings, you only get to see what is along the road. Sometimes it is already along the road, you don't even notice it. Earlier, from Battery Way to Battery Heard, we were here. We actually came across a bunker. Already along the road, now to your left side, but you did not see it because it's camouflaged. And there are more buildings behind that going slightly uphill. Imagine what's in the woodlands. Imagine the amount of concrete and steel. Everything came by ships 100 years ago. Guys, the Japanese are here. Everyone look to the left and smile. Hi guys. Stop smiling. Okay, we're going to visit the hospital. It's not part of the tour. So the other groups won't see this and they don't have to know about it. One more thing, the buses are not supposed to enter because the roads have not yet been redeveloped. This is usually for hiking or trekking only. But you are very lucky because you have a driver, Leo, who has agreed to show it to you, and he's a very brave driver. He's not afraid to die. There were 2 kinds of roads, cemented or paved road. We also had macadam road, compacted gravel. There were separate schools for the Filipinos and the Americans then, and they were made out of wood. Among the first to burn, after the first air raids were conducted. Now only the staircase remains to what used to be the intermediate school for the American children. See, I got through this security inspection with all of those bullets and grenades and slip dogs. Now just keep looking to your right side down below. That's the staircase that led to the intermediate school then. And to the left side was a TX shop, post exchange building or commissary, nowadays called duty-free shop. Only dollars and tokens accepted. Only Americans were supposed to buy, but sometimes Filipinos on kitchen patrol shine shoes for the GI. They give the token as payment. Occasionally some Filipinos buying here as well. Now usually on trekking I start my group from top side walking downhill. We cover 4 areas that way. Other guys prefer bottom side walking uphill, so you say, I'm tired, let's go back to the hotel. And to the right side is the original staircase that leads to top side barracks, which you will see later. Now all the buildings here have chimneys, including the hospital. We don't get snow. It's for Santa Claus entry. And the plans were standard, drawn in the US constructed here with our chimneys. Now keep looking left side down below behind the trees. Only the foundation remains there of what used to be the pharmacy or drugstore, yung botika. And straight ahead, we have ruins of the post-hospital building. Now, from an airplane looking down, the structure is shaped like a very big cross. The Japanese knew it was non-military structure, but they bombed it just the same. After the first air raid was conducted, all patients were transferred immediately to Malinta Tunnels Underground Hospital. 1,000 bed capacity. Okay guys, we're not supposed to be here and we're already here. Let's just cross the building and the bus will pick us up at the other side. If you don't want to do that, remain on board the bus, and we'll do this carefully because all doctors are still on leave. That's why I love doing it. I'm bound by ethics not to discuss politics, but the hospital is always visited by Muslims from Mindanao during March 18, the commemoration day of the Jabila massacre, which happened in 1968. The time Marcos wanted to grab Sabah from Malaysia. So since I'm bound by ethics not to discuss politics, you just Google Jabila with a J, it comes out, Corregidor massacre of 1968. The reason why Mindanao is now breaking away from the rest of the Philippines. The Jabila Muslim trainees were here, and they were, Corregidor that was for, at the time, perfect for guerrilla warfare jungle training purposes. During their stay, they wrote graffiti, their names. And this is where they were sleeping at the time, sleeping quarters. This was called jungle in 1968. I'll show you some of the names, and then you just Google Jabila massacre, Corregidor Island. I just want everyone to take notes. Normally, given more time, we explore the third floor where I show you the hospital chapel, the lounge, the project rooms, and everything else. So this way, take notes so you can see some of the names of those who were here at the time. Take notes, you go there. Oh, it's almost March 18, so we will again commemorate it here. They arrived January 3, 1968. The monster of Sibuto. This group calls themselves the monster. Sibuto is still part of the Philippines. At the tip of Sulu. Hey guys, follow the group. Guys, this way, follow the group. Grupo, ikot na. Sisundan niyo sila. So you can see the names in order. Sige po. That way, kayo go. And they were not all Muslims, some were Christians. The important thing was you can speak the language and words to the people of Sabah. This way. This one turns out to be a pastor, Pampakan, Sibuto, Sulu. Again, January 3, they arrived. March 18 was the massacre. A typical Bisaya accent. To ill is human, to forgive is divine. Okay, this way, this is how you spell Jabida. Jabida's Holy Satans. Ayan. And then the spelling. These are some of the trainers, captain and lieutenant at the time. Most of them are now active generals in the Philippine Army because the Jabida massacre officially never happened. Panahon ni Marcos eh. Among the casualties was a trainer, Captain Nicomuseno. He did not want to participate in the massacre. His classmate drew a gun and shot him in the head. Okay, let's move out, guys. Moving out. Back to the back cave. Yung pa, mga pangalan pa. Okay, tang, all aboard! Comadrona. Thank you, Leo. Oh, by the way, we never saw the hospital today. In my earlier reckless years, I used to do a lot of trailblazing. With a machete, I went down here, right side down below. I saw ruins of the nurses' quarters. You can see the building right there. That was the nurses' quarters then. Oh, and I discovered that. Imagine what's in the woodlands. Ilang 48 underground tunnels, you only get to see Malinta. I've seen a 1918 tunnel bigger than Malinta. It was completed before they started Malinta tunnel, the 1918 tunnel. And the beds are still there on the sides of the walls. Okay, now right side down below are the original roads leading to Battery Way, right there. Was on Corridor during the war. It was surrendered $60 million in gold bullion were sent to San Francisco mint by submarine. But the Americans just dumped 23 million pesos of silver coins in the water. Less than 1/3 has been recovered. Sometimes they get washed ashore and friends of mine who pick it up, they give it to the gift shop to sell to you as salvage coins. You don't have to buy it unless you want to. Check it out. Filipinas one side with an F, America on the reverse. On the reverse is a very small S, coins minted in San Francisco for use in the Philippines. So America gave us at least one side of a coin. Usually Filipinos people who buy it are Americans very good. And aside from the silver coins, they also sent Japanese money, now known as Mickey Mouse money. It was valueless. You need a sack of money then to buy a sack of rice. At the time, the Americans counterfeited the bills and gave them out, making them valueless. They were demonetized after the war. So later, if you're going to buy at the gift shop Japanese money, I can guarantee you it's a genuine counterfeit. Nalala ko yung PNR gagawa ng project. Gusto nila maglagay ng tren mula Manila to Batangas para hindi ka na mag-push. Gumawa na small scale model testing. Umalis yung tren na Manila, chuk, 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 chuk. Pagdating Batangas, chuk, 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 hindi natin na doon. Tapos may isang lalaki sa Star City sumisigaw, iyo na ako, iyo na ako. Ngongo pala, nakasakay sa roller coaster, iyo na ako, iyo na ako. Tapos yung Ngongo, naglalaping sa girlfriend, tinakpan yung mata. Sabi niya, tinakpan niya yung mata ng girlfriend. Ngeso ka dyan, ikaw na mo ako dito. We're now heading for the highest part of the island. Next stop is topside area, 628 feet from sea level, referred to as the nerve center of the formidable Fort Hills. Way back then, only Americans were allowed to stay on topside. Few Philippine exceptions were the entertainers like the pianists, the singers, and the household help. You also have their topside studios or Cine Corregidor, dating Sinirama, ngayon Sinirana. 3 weeks advance screening compared to Manila. Before war broke out, among the last film shown were Sergeant York, the 4,000 Horsemen, and the rerun of the classic Gone with the Wind, where they said, and I quote, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." It's a very short film, more than 4 hours only. At least na naman ang itami sa dagat, kumundag na bilad sa araw, sabi ng isda, I'm dying. Alam niyo favorite sport na isda? Swimming. Ito maganda, yung babae bumaba ng bus, sabi ng papay sa labas, Miss, yung tete mo nakalabas. Yung baby ko naiwan sa bus. We're now going to see the world's longest barracks at the time. Topside barracks reserved for 8,000 American enlisted men of the 59th Coast Artillery Regiment. Because of the extensive land, it was American officers with their families stationed here. 27 units of the senior officers' family quarters row. Now from topside barracks, they took pictures of the parade grounds and the houses to your right. This is what that area looked like before. Over here is Corregidor's original flagpole. That white staff there, it survived the mass. Comadrona. Thank you, Leo. Oh, by the way, we never saw the hospital today. In my earlier reckless years, I used to do a lot of trailblazing. With a machete, I went down here, right side down below. I saw ruins of the nurses' quarters. You can see the building right there. That was the nurses' quarters then. Oh, and I discovered that. Imagine what's in the woodlands. Ilang 48 underground tunnels, you only get to see Malinta. I've seen a 1918 tunnel bigger than Malinta. It was completed before they started Malinta tunnel, the 1918 tunnel. And the beds are still there on the sides of the walls. Okay, now right side down below are the original roads leading to Battery Way, right there. Okay, now the Philippine Treasury was on Corregidor during the war. Before the surrender, $60 million in gold bullion were sent to San Francisco mint by submarine. But the Americas just dumped 23 million pesos of silver coins in the water. Less than 1/3 has been recovered. Sometimes they get washed ashore and friends of mine who pick it up, they give it to the gift shop to sell to you as salvage coins. You don't have to buy it unless you want to. Check it out. Filipinas one side with an F, America on the reverse. On the reverse is a very small S, coins minted in San Francisco for use in the Philippines. So America gave us at least one side of a coin. Usually Filipinos who people who buy it are Americans married to Filipinos. And aside from the silver coins, they also sent Japanese money, now known as Mickey Mouse money. It was valueless. You need a sack of money then to buy a sack of rice. At the time, the Americans counterfeited the bills and gave them out, making them valueless. They were demonetized after the war. So later, if you're going to buy at the gift shop Japanese money, I can guarantee you it's a genuine counterfeit. Nalala ko yung PNR gagawa ng project. Gusto nila maglagay ng tren mula Manila to Batangas para hindi ka na mag-push. Gumawa na small scale model testing. Umalis yung tren na Manila, chuk, 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 chuk. Pagdating Batangas, chuk, 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 hindi natin nalayo. Tapos may isang lalaki sa Star City sumisigaw, yung iyo na ako, yung iyo na ako. Ngongo pala, nakasakay sa roller coaster, yung iyo na ako, yung iyo na ako. Kasi nga naglalaping sa girlfriend, tinakpan yung mata. Sabi niya, tinakpan niya yung mata ng girlfriend. Ngeso ka dyan, ikaw lang ako dito. We're now heading for the highest part of the island. Next stop is topside area, 628 feet from sea level, referred to as the nerve center of the formidable Fort Hills. Way back then, only Americans were allowed to stay on topside. Few Philippine exceptions were the entertainers like the pianists, the singers, and the household help. You also have their topside studios or Cine Corregidor, dating Sinirama, ngayon Sinirana. 3 weeks advance screening compared to Manila. Before war broke out, among the last films shown were Sergeant York, The 4,000 Horsemen, and the rerun of the classic Gone with the Wind, where they said, and I quote, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." It's a very short film, more than 4 hours only. At least na naman ang may sa dagat, bumundag na bilad sa araw, sabi ng isda, ang daing. Alam niyo favorite sport na isda? Swimming. Ito maganda, yung babae bumaba ng bus, sabi ng papay sa labas, "Miss, yung tete mo nakalabas." "Ah, yung baby ko naiwan sa bus." We're now going to see the world's longest barracks at the time. Topside barracks reserved for 8,000 American enlisted men of the 50th American officers with their families stationed here. 27 units of the senior officers' family quarters room. Now from topside barracks, they took pictures of the parade grounds and the houses to your right. This is what that area looked like before. Over here is Corregidor's original flagpole. That white stuff there, it survived the mass. Now, Corregidor is much closer to Bataan, just 3 miles across, compared to Cavite, 8 to 10 miles away. But technically, Corregidor, or geographically, Corregidor is Barangay 53-B, Sangre Point, Cavite City, since the term of Governor Cameron Forbes in 1909. Kasi this was a military base. So the commanding officer here had to report to his superiors in Sangre Point, Cavite. 1909 pa yan. Kaya pasinin yung mga gift shop, ang mga business permit, lahat Cavite. Pag may tribo, sabi ko isa, Sultan Dato, mga dayuhan, lulusubin tayo, mahina tribo, yari tayo dyan. Relax ka lang, iho, akong bahala sa'yo. Sultan Dato, mahabang espada, suot na bakal, yari tayo dyan. Relax ka lang, iho, akong bahala sa'yo. Sigaw yung Dato. Palabasin lahat ng matataba at pangit na babae sa tribo! Ihalera sa baybay dagat! Hubad, talikod, tuwad! Bago tayo lang, telescope sa Magellan. Ang daming leon! Atras, doon tayo sa Mactan. Doon siya namatay. Huwag niyo kakwento yung pag may matatabang babae na. Okay, in front of the right side, top side of the house, or Visiting Corregidor, and more to the right, Pambinatang Opisyal, Bachelor Officers Quarters or BOQ. If you're an officer with a family, but your family was not stationed here, you're billeted at the BOQ as well. Now, left side is the Pacific War Memorial, which we will visit after lunch. Okay, now look to the right, everyone, look to the right and smile. Yeah. There you go, stop smiling. The original lighthouse was built by the Spaniards in 1836. Damaged during the war, we gave it a facelift. So the lighthouse here with the cross is operational again. It lights every night all the way up to Manila with a beam range of 33 miles. And you're also allowed to go up the lighthouse for a jump shot. The lighthouse before and after. Okay, 50 minutos po tayo. May mga gift shop din dyan sa Kasiya doon. 50 minutos total. 35 minutes for lunch and 15 minutes for the lighthouse area. On Apetito for now, enjoy your lunch. 50 minutes total here. Okay, in front of the right side, top side of the house, or Visiting Corregidor, and more to the right, Pambinatang Opisyal, Bachelor Officers Quarters or BOQ. If you're an officer with a family, but your family was not stationed here, you're billeted at the BOQ as well. Now, left side is the Pacific War Memorial, which we will visit after lunch. Okay, now look to the right, everyone, look to the right and smile. Yeah! There you go, stop smiling. The original lighthouse was built by the Spaniards in 1836. Damaged during the war, we gave it a facelift. So the lighthouse here with the cross is operational again. It lights every night all the way up to Manila with a beam range of 33 miles. And you're also allowed to go up the lighthouse for a jump shot. You will see the image of the back of the altar. Go to the other side. There are words written in front of the altar. Read the words. Now it is an altar to consist not only on top of it for flanking, unless you are human sacrifice. It only accepts virgins, so tribal mayo is overqualified. Now in front, a metal piece of artwork painted in red is called the eternal flame of freedom. From here, you see in front a copy of the day where we were describing. It's quite easy right now, but on a clear day, you can see Manila from here, 5 to 6 miles ahead on a clear day. Then to your left side is Mataas Peninsula. The parameter is unit ng Germanan at West. Sabi ni Gloria Macapagal. Senado ni Miss Piso, Chano Sumita, half Filipino, half Filipina. Si Gloria Macapagal, half Filipina. That's it. Driver Leo is Italian, half Ita, half alien. Maganda yung view ko sa baba, baba mo yung bus. Yan. It's very obedient but not stupid. Okay, just stand up for a while and look right side down below. That's Marine.
I can see in front to the right side down below a very big crater. That was where a building was, the gunpowder room. When it exploded, 40 tons of gunpowder blew up.
Oh, be careful, sir.
Oh, il y a des pièges, hein.
That was the gunpowder room.
Ah, nous amène à la rivière, non?
To the big tunnel.
Bon, on va se baigner. On va descendre. Bon, en fin de compte, on peut se mettre sur YouTube. Hein? On peut se mettre sur YouTube et c'est pareil, tu fais le voyage. Mais c'est bien passé, ça se fait un effet avant. Ah, mais c'est pas passé. C'est pas ça. On peut y aller, ils vont nous emmener. Ouais. Bah. Ça, je m'entends bien. Ok. C'est ça donc. On manque de sommeil. On va la monter, je crois. Ils vont nous voir quoi là?
Sorry.
Tu peux avoir un petit béton là?
Notice the tip of the gun has been sold off by scrappers.
Oh,
Sold for scrap metal. Again, that's one of the 3 6-inch disappearing guns of battery Ramsey. Sige, ikot sa taas ng building, tapos baba rito sa kanan.
Baba si Pascal.
Imagine what's in the woodlands. Sige, dito ang baba nyo. Bigger gun emplacements. Yan, mas maganda ka na. Now, when you were at the Japanese Memorial, and from the rooftop of Battery Rocket, you saw Caballo Island. Caballo, Spanish word for horse. Caballo Island was renamed as Fort Hughes. There again in front, slightly to the right, 1 mile across Caballo Island, Fort Hughes. From Caballo to the right, it's a bit hazy but you can see it clearly, much closer to the mainland, and directly to your right side now, a small round island with a wedge on top, Carabao Island. Carabao, Water Buffalo, Fort Frank. Between Fort Hughes and Fort Frank, can you see the small black ship on top of the water?
Yeah.
It is not moving. It is not a ship. That is the smallest and most developed island, El Fraile, priest or friar, renamed Fort Drum, otherwise known as the concrete battleship. The Americans saw El Fraile was so small, less than 1 acre in size, they shaped it 40 feet below the sea to get a wider and a more solid foundation. Perimeter wall, they had to vacuum all of the seawater out. 9 years, America constructed a structure to look like the forward half of a World War I battleship. Here's a picture of Fort Drum then. When you were having lunch, driver Leo took a boat and took a picture of it again for you. Thank you, Leo. And here's Fort Drum today. Fort Drum is 350 feet long, 150 feet wide, 30 feet thick of reinforced concrete all around it. Elevator goes down 4 levels. 2 levels below the sea. The guns on top are 14-inch guns, bigger than the guns we saw today. Fort Drum was taking at least 100 direct hits per day at the height of the siege of Corregidor. For the retaking, the Americans poured in 3,000 gallons of diesel inside it. Fort Drum was burning for 3 days and 3 nights in and out. When they finally opened it, 64 Japanese were burned to death. Casualties included, by accident, 1 American, a prisoner for manning the generator deck. Spend 2 days here or more, rent a boat, and visit the other islands. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we have been also Corregidor tour for today. On behalf of 106 million Filipinos, maraming salamat po. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for making your tour today of the Corregidor's medical history. Also for making it with Sun Cruises and the Corregidor Foundation. I hope that you all enjoyed the tour. Enough for you to say at the end, I shall return. And not to forget, thank you very much to our hardworking driver, Leo. Leo, stand up and please. At the end of it all, if you feel like services have been rendered to your satisfaction, anything just perhaps or maybe you'd like to leave behind, the driver Leo here will be highly appreciated. Nothing is compulsory. Before you leave the bus, double check your seats. Make sure that you do not leave anything behind, especially your children. We don't want them. Always a suggestion comes you to the Sunday or your goes back to Manila. You are allowed to write only very good comments about the tour guide and the driver. Your tour guide is Armando, our driver is Leo. Thank you for giving me the chance to do what I like doing best, guiding for Corregidor. Live and let live, as we say in our language, mabuhay! That is now the end of the tour. Have a pleasant cruise back to Manila. You have gotten a very wonderful audience. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And finally, I have to add so far of all my tourists, you are the most recent. Napagkatawag sa pinakamahagang ko sa katawan ng tao. Pasaginay ng plastic na tinatawag sa ito. At tawag ko ng connecting. Pinunod na nasa kwet. Kasi wala hindi mo nabasin. Subukan mo mamaya tutuwag ka. Kung hindi mo isa, pag matibay kapit, itikit-tikit ka, mapapaiyak ka. Subukan mo isa kasama. Okay, boarding time, so don't forget to check your seats before leaving finally. And again, it was a pleasure guiding for this group. Thank you also. Thank you. Pagpasok nyo, aircon, pasma kayo agad. Meron akong kasama rito, wala nang avocado. Tawag ko sa kanya pink sugar kasi panog siya. Thank you everyone. Goodbye. Thank you, Leo.
Here it is. We're back. How was it? You like it? That was okay. It was a good tour.
No,
Good tour.
Good day once again to our valued passengers. In a few minutes, we shall be docking at Esplanade Seaside Terminal. For your safety and comfort, please remain seated until the vessel is completely docked and a signal has been given to disembark. Please check around your seats to ensure that none of your personal belongings are left behind. In behalf of MV San Cruiser 2, Captain Alfonso Quetoriano Jr., Chief Engineer Oliver Abraham, and the rest of the crew, we would like to say thank you for choosing Sun Cruises to be part of your corridor tour. Thank you and mabuhay!
Siguro ba? Step. Step. What? Step.
Baka sakali.
Thank you po. Next time ulit, sir. Thank you po. Next time ulit. Thank you.